Hello, this is Cody from 337, and I wanted to record a short video with my highlights of sort of my reflections and my learnings for the class. So this is an image I found that highlights the design thinking model for education. And obviously this was the structure that we used, we read about it, and I love that it was modeled in all three of the challenges. This, starting with empathizing, really developing that understanding, having to think about what was the problem of the learner, what was their feelings, where were they, what was their experience before thinking about a solution. And then the define phase for me was really where we began to, look at Bloom's taxonomy and different ways of writing learning outcomes, so that we started to understand, or I started to understand, how to link the problem with why they were learning what they were learning. Then into the ideate phase, or was where we came up with solutions. And so by having the opportunity to see lots of different examples and then publish a not finished version, it really allowed me to experience the ideate in a learning environment, which in and of itself is this whole process modeled. But by experiencing the ideate stage, it allowed that kind of fail fast, freedom to fail, experimental mindset to come into my learning, which is not something I have often had the privilege of, especially in university. So that was really refreshing, and at the same time, the contextualized aspect where I got to experience the type of learning that I was learning to develop experiences for. Was fascinating and very meaningful for me. So I think in experiencing that, especially those first three, the empathize, define, and the ideate, so fully, I can see the value of designing programs that give learners the opportunity to plan, to articulate, to fail, to try, instead of kind of moving the learner too fast on the learning journey through objective to objective, more and more content. So it's really an entirely different way of learning, but it's so integrated, and I feel really confident in the pieces that I've learned. So then moving into the prototype phase, it was so enjoyable to get feedback and to see other people's work instead of just kind of blindly, finishing an assignment and handing it in. I enjoyed the prototype phase very much. I enjoyed that there was room to kind of grow with my class, and saw so many opportunities where people said, oh, that's a great idea there, or this was awesome, or even with my partner Tanner, we got to grow up our own ideas. So as we saw our idea in one iteration, we said, oh, we could make it better, let's do this. And that again was a really impactful way to learn, much more effective than studying for a test. A week after a test, I barely remember anything. But getting to prototype something, build it, test it out, then have the opportunity to define it for myself, what would make it better, to obviously take in the feedback, but to have that agency was very powerful. And then moving into the test phase of engaging in continuous improvements, the short kind of sprints that we had for this class were actually really advantageous. In the sense that it really allowed a deep dive, but only in a certain confined amount of time. So we were forced to, iterate quickly and change fast and get creative. And that pressure, I think, mimics the real world very well, but it also allowed for there not to be that kind of, habitual slide into like paralysis analysis. So I think for this course, the compressed version actually works really well. It also allowed for me to be a lot leaner in my thinking. So I got to kind of stay in this content and really chew on it and think about it, and not have to leave, juggle 10 different subjects. Well, it's never 10, but many different subjects at the same time. So those are some of the gleanings that I have from this course. And I think the other big piece, what I would take away would be the list of principles. They're so clear, they're easy to apply, and it was really wonderful to have that checklist to go through and say, have I taken care of the temporal continuity principle, or am I segmenting, or, do I need to think about understanding my audience more? Have I forgotten them? Did I get stuck in an idea? So that was really, that was really powerful. I'm going to stop the video here, and I will continue the rest as just an answer in my post. Thank you so much for a wonderful class and so much learning. Have a great evening and a great rest of the year.